Okay, hello. My name's David, or Panda, whatever you might know me by. This is like my fourth take of this bullshit. uh, of me trying to talk through this remake I did of Last Stone of the Night. I want to give like a nice long video where I kind of like talk about everything, all the things I do, all the things I like think about, or all the things that Dilla might have think about when he makes beats and all that stuff. For me, when remake beats, because I know there's been a lot of activity recently of people posting their remakes. You know what I mean? People showing love to Dilla, showing love to what I mean, whoever it may be. I'm a big fan of Premier, Q-Tip, New Job Bass. You know what I mean? I've done like over like I think 300 remakes or something like that at this point, because of personal effects. But more importantly, I when I started doing remakes, you know what I mean, I didn't have any sort of kind of knowledge about music or anything before that, so it was pretty awesome, but also kind of difficult. So I hope that there's some kid out there watching this who like doesn't know how to remake shit, and like you know what I mean, like this gonna set them off as what I mean. People in the past have set me off, you know what I mean. Like shout out to that's okay for sure, you know what I mean. Like they're one of the best yet. Glockboy Icy's out there, MF Killer, all these great people are out there doing great remakes. And yeah, so I'm just here to try to put my money in the pot, so to speak. Anyways, so last Stone of the Night, I remade this just a few days ago, and it sounds something like this. We're just gonna play, I mean, just a little bit of it, so you know that it's actually me.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, now time at the Regal. Young man went out and made a name for himself.
So, last Stone of the Night, it's technically the last track I would say of Donuts, but really it's the penultimate track. One of the most beautiful things to ever hit, I think, my ears personally in my life. Dilla does this on his Jay Dilla, the producer, does this on his deathbed or in the hospital bed, presumably, with just two samples. He does this with the "Moments to You with Love," which we can see right here in the front, and just the audio recording of Gene Chandler, Rainbow 65, where somebody's introducing them. So how does he get there? How did we get from this sample to this beat? Well, let's first look at the sample, right? So let's just play the sample as is right now, which I'm gonna do right now.
My love so bold, this ring that I hold, I give to you with love.
So that's just beginning. Amazingly stunning, 40 seconds alone, right? Just that alone. And then we look forward a little bit. We can see here about 135 ish. He also takes this part.
That's what I'm gonna do.
So that alone makes up the sample, right? Makes up the beat. Just those six parts. It's not a lot. Some people think like what I mean that like, not gonna say think, but some people like I'm gonna say make it seem like everything Dylan in particular did was like kind of like a don't cry thing, like he just like somehow like crazily like took all the kicks and the snares, but here he just took a couple of parts that he thought sounded nice and that kept with the melody that sounded nice. So in particular, you listen to this and you could hear here that it's the same sound behind it. You can hear like just softly in the background a little like guitar riff or whatever right here behind the snare. You can still hear it. And you know, I'll I'm not trying to by any means try to downplay anything that that he did or that anybody does. Obviously I can't speak for Dilla. I'm just kind of like a student of hip hop, if you will. But I think it's pretty important to kind of like recognize, okay, like why did he take this part, or like why would he take this part, I should say, or that part or this part, right? So you listen like this section,
I give to you.
right? It has a nice balance between I mean somebody the singing the vocals on top and the melody behind it, which is way better. And the melody behind it is still like in line with the rest of the melodies that he liked, as opposed to taking something like this part right here, right? It doesn't sound as excuse me, Taylor Day. Doesn't sound similar, I should say, to the rest of the parts. But anyways, that's just how it goes. So you have all these parts, and then now he pitches it up, right? Because you listen to this once again, it's pretty slow. So how did he pitch it? Well, um, and from what I could tell, I'm just gonna take the sample out here. So here you have a kick and a snare, right? So a one and a two, right? Because the BPM of Last Note of the Night, because we're remaking it after the fact, we know that it's like around 80.6. Ableton will do it for you, right? Like if I like bring in Last Note of the Night, I probably have it. Let's see, Last Note of the Night. Um, if you bring it in here, it says here in the bottom left, you can see here 80.68, right? Um, I just found 80.67 to be a little bit better, but it really doesn't matter. The point is that with the BPM in play, you can kind of have like a working grid right now. Uh, in I believe their Two Can Win remake, that's okay. Fantastic, probably the best remaker I think in my opinion. They spoke about like the grid being like a little like when you remaking, especially Dilla. Sometimes he play off grid, the whole quantization thing everybody knows him for. But regardless of that fact, you can still kind of use a grid to make your remake sound better. So most hip hop songs, the snares always hit on the second and the fourth beat of a bar. I hope I said that right. I'm not once again. I'm not a big music person. So if you see here, you see the two right here, right in the middle, 66.2. You see that this snare, the audio, the waveform for the snare is a bit ahead of where we want it to be. So obviously, when Dilla has his last note of the night song, you can see here that his snare is the way I've placed it, right? Because you always want to have the song you're remaking just to go off of, waveform wise. His snares, what I mean, I moved them so that they hit around the point two and the point fours of the song, right? So here it's around the point two. Snares around the point four again, and obviously Dilla comes in a little late, comes in a little early sometimes, but the important thing is to have this so that you could tell when you're pitching the sample, right? Because obviously I'm pitching it up. I want to know when to stop and when to keep pitching it. So I'm gonna pitch it until it reaches kind of that point two bar. So around here, and you end up with something that sounds like this. Which now your ear might be recognizing as more of the speed that Last Note of the Night is at. Right, and if I continue it, so this is now the purple section, right, the pink section. Right, that's more the speed of the track. Now I put mine at about 3 and 25 semitones, so three and a quarter. So I thought that sounded about right. The snare is a little bit late, but that's fine. Once again, the pink section. This right here, the right for bar, the one bar is pink section. So now we have the right speed, right? And you might have noticed that this still sounds pretty high pitched in comparison to the actual song. Actually, I'm gonna play a little bit of the song just so we can know this, right?
Ladies and gentlemen.
Right, much more lower pitched. So what Dilla did, he had a way to he would time stretch it, but then he would warp it. He would warp the pitch separately. So in Ableton, I could do this by just pressing warp, and then changing the pitch as I wanted, right? It'll maintain the time stretch, but it'll change the pitch. So here, um, it seemed to me that he pitched it to be one semitone above the original sample's pitch, but he time stretched it about 3 1/4, so it sounds like this. Oh, sorry, I didn't have the track open. And just to continue once again, the purple section. It sounds so nice, right? Like, how am I not gonna play this every time? And I thought that sounded about right. Um, I think I ended up overall putting it at 110, so 10 extra semitones. And if you ever worried about like pitching, like you don't know you pitch the sample correctly, you could always just play the actual beat. Like if you put it in line. So here you can see I moved. Sorry, don't look at the second track anymore. So you can see I moved my own sample like in line with the actual beat on top. So the snares hit the same spot, and then you could just literally listen to both at the same time and see if it sounds harmonized, right? And here's what that would sound like.
Ladies and gentlemen, now time at the Regal. Young man.
Right? Now, I know that sounds beautiful, but the more important thing is that it sounds right. If you have the wrong pitch, it will sound something like this. So I'm gonna just quickly like change this pitch to, let's just say we kept it at 3, right? Let's say we didn't do that thing where we warped it to sound like 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, now time.
Do you notice that difference? Even though they're playing at the same time, you can still hear the different pitches. Which will even if you're like me, you don't know jack shit about music, you can still kind of hear, you know what I mean? You can still kind of hear that it sounds, a bit off versus this.
Ladies and gentlemen, now time at the Regal. Young man.
So I just love that pink section, bro. That shit's beautiful. But yeah, so now we know that the sample is pitched, 3 up 3 1/4, but warped. The pitch itself is warped to sound like it's only pitched up 110. So that's how. Now you'll notice all of these if you look in the bottom left right here. Actually, I'll move this up a little bit. The bottom left right here, you can see that all of these parts I've done that too, right? I pitched them up 3 1/4, then I warped it, and then just had it only at 110. So that's that. But that's not it, right? Because if that was it, beat making be pretty easy. At least I think it would be a bit easy. If you listen here, I'm gonna put just the sample, like just this part, in here again, and we're gonna listen to it. That sounds nice and all, but let's listen to his section or his beat. Let me just take the actual part where this starts, and then just take just so it's like, you know what I mean, on top. Oh, what? Does not fit? What's going on? That's weird. That's okay. Let's listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen,
Versus this. You notice that it still sounds, especially if you have headphones, you notice that it still sounds a little bit different. So, what's the difference? What's going on here? Well, there's effects, right? Like, no matter what you do whenever you use a sample, especially if you're making beats, you gotta put effects on it. So, what effects did Dilla use, right? What effects did I use to try to replicate those effects? Well, you see there's a huge list of them down here, but that's a lot of, what I mean, that could be a lot of, uh, overwhelming information, so I'm just gonna go one at a time. So the first thing I used was just a simple like sterilizer. Now this is set to mono, which can be a little bit surprising, but you can just, for the most part, it can also just be a right. So when it comes to this song, you listen. I'm gonna play it here a little bit. Um, all of the sound, like certain sounds, are only in certain channels. That's because old records, they used to the way they mixed that shit was just crazy, right? They have like all the drums in the left and all like the guitar in the right or something. Here we're just gonna play the left channel of the sample. So that's that. Um, you'll notice that it's a lot of the high pitched, like I guess singing noise, but not a lot of the drums or the melody. The drums are there, but the melody is definitely not there. So obviously, what that means for us is if we take the right channel. That's where everything else is, right? So the drums, you can definitely hear the snare way better. The melody, the beautiful ass melody. I'm not sure if that's piano, that's a guitar riff, whatever, but whatever that melody is. Um, yeah. So when I when you well, sorry when we look at Dilla's remake and we listen to his,
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen,
there's a presence of both, right? So, like he didn't completely remove the singing, but he also didn't completely remove the melody. So what that means is that he used both channels, and the best way to go about that in this scenario is what I did. Is I had this channel being like a mono or a right. Like this could also work. I like mono a little bit more. Um, one channel that's mono or right, and then the other channel that's left, right? So this is the left channel, and that way I could get both sounds in, both channels in, without having it being really weird and stacked, which is usually the case if you use mono. Here's what I mean by that. So I'm gonna play this again, but this time I'm gonna put this in mono. So yeah. You'll notice that the high pitched singing is really like overwhelming. It's on top of all the other things, and that's the only thing you hear, really. So by taking the left and the right instead, I'm able to kind of mix what I want. And so I have you'll notice I have my right channel, which is this bottom channel. I should just rename this to right. That'll make it a little bit easier. Right channel. I'm gonna rename this to left/mono channel. You'll notice that my right channel here is turned down all the way to like minus 13 decibels, whereas this is only minus 3, which lets me, isolate, or not isolate, turn down the high pitched singing without having to do some crazy mixing. I don't have the full thing of Ableton. I have yet to download some cool compressors that That's Okay sent me. Shout out to them once again. So instead of you could be EQing this stuff, but in my opinion, it was just a little bit easier to let me have since the high pitch singing is on a separate channel, I could just have it on a separate track and then just turn down the track as I wanted. So we just play the right channel here. Right, it's soft, right, but still there. And the bass is there too, which is obviously pretty important, especially if you're making anything Dilla or Q-Tip or what I mean. Sometimes even DJ Premier loved his. Well, he always loved his. That's why it's boom bap, right? The boom. But I mean, these jazzy sort of beats, they have a certain low end that's a little bit hard to replicate. Here's the left channel alone. If you listen to just the left channel, because it's mono, oh sorry, this is mono, so the singing's in there, but if I just put it to left. Oh, sorry, I meant this is the right channel. What am I talking about? See, this is why I keep having to do takes of this. This is the right channel. This is the left channel. I'm tripping, dude. Sorry about that. But yeah, so you just listen to this. There's no singing, right? The whole high pitched singing, it's gone. So by having both channels in. Oh, sorry. The original beat is still playing. like the singing more, you can always turn it up, right? This is great for if you actually making your own beat. Right, so that's that. Um, so that's what stereo. That's the stereo part of the song. So that's just this first effect, right? So that's what's on here all the way to the left. That's what here is on this track all the way to the left. Next thing you'll see on both is an acoustic compressor, right? And compressing is a little bit hard to describe, especially because I don't know that much uh formal terminology. But compressing is sort of like if you took all the sounds and you raised them to be equal to one another, so that no sounds left behind. Um, Here's the track again. I'm gonna keep it in mono just for our sake. Actually, I might just nah, it's okay. I'm gonna keep it in mono just for our sake. But here's it without compressing. Now here's it with the compressing. Um, it might be very hard to hear, especially because I'm recording this with just like some normal recording software, and I'm not even using like a an audio engine or anything. But the most important part of this is that this pink section sounds way cleaner, and it's hard to hear it really. This is sort of like accentuation. Hope I use that word right on all of the cool like notes that are being played before on the kicks, right? So and then this part, right? It sounds much cooler and much more cleaner and much more vibey, and that's what we want. Um, Also on the acoustic compressor, there's a lot of different compressors you could use. I'm using the Ableton just defaults. So you go into dynamics and compressor. There's a bunch here. Brick wall is kind of good if you're using like lyrics. Sometimes I feel like classical compression is really reliable. Flattenator is really good for getting like a 70s like AM radio sort of sound, and then all the rest, you know, you can play around with them. I hope you do, especially if you were beginning like me and watching this video for some reason. Um, More importantly, the side chaining. So what side chaining does is when it's side chaining something, anytime that thing plays, it's gonna kind of quiet itself down. I have it side chained to my fifth track, which is the lyrics, right? So if it wasn't side chained, it would be very annoying because you'd have like these two loud sounds like clashing with each other. But because I have it side chained, when you listen, when the lyrics when the spoken word is being played, right? The beat kind of quiets itself down, giving it more room for you to hear. So I'm just gonna play it because that's probably the best way to show.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, now time after Regal. Young man went out and made a name for himself. Been on every record-breaking show in the Regal Theater in the last 2 years.
And if I just turn it off, 'cause I can do that, right? You know what I mean?
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen.
Right? It's a little hard to hear that guy. You know, it's a little hard to hear it. So, you know, that's the beauty of compressing and side chaining. So I did that. I didn't tweak. I probably didn't tweak much of this. It's probably just the default settings. I like my dry wet. I like to be 100% wet. Um, as probably many dudes do. Um, sorry. I'm immature, but that it's just the truth of the matter. I like it. I like it turned all the way up. If you really had the time, you could just, you know, what I mean, tweak everything to sound the way that Dilla originally had it. And Dilla just had SP. You know, what I mean, he didn't have this like virtual DAW, but even then, he probably compressed it. He probably, you know, mixed it the way he wanted. So that's that. Next thing we have here is a channel EQ. So I'm just gonna put this here. And equalizer, I think pretty much every producer probably knows what equalizing is. In fact, Tribe Called Quest, one of their best albums, is named right the low end theory. So equalizing lets you tweak the low end, the mid end, and the high end. Now, if you have actually the full version or FL Studio or something, excuse me, you're gonna actually have like an EQ8 and the ability to like kind of move like where you want your where you want which sound like up or down, whether you want like this section. You can like you can put points on it and you know pull it. I don't have it. I don't have Ableton full, so I'm just stuck with this like kind of three knob equalizer. But more importantly, Dilla, a lot of his work, he boosted the low end and kind of tuned out the mid and the high end. And so I'm just gonna play this part once again here, but first time without the equalizer and second time with the equalizer. Once again, a little bit harder to hear if you don't have like great headphones or whatever. I'm just using gaming headphones right now, so I can talk to you guys because I don't have a mic. But um, the low end is boosted, so it does sound a bit quieter overall, especially because the mid and the high is gone. But the singing's not really there, and it's more room for the bass, that vibe that Dilla gets. And you listen to Dilla's actual version, you know what I mean? Like there's just a crazy like space, like an atmosphere to his shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, time at the Regal. Young man went out and made a name for himself. He's been on every record-breaking show in the
And it was Q-Tip that said that Dilla just knew how to mix. You know what I mean? The way he had shit EQ'd, everything was where it needed to be. And I think that is best shown here, right? Like you just listen to the vibe of this.
years. Ladies and gentlemen, stop. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen.
So if you have like a formal EQ, like a EQ8 or something, and you have time, you know what I mean? Definitely try just mixing it out, just trying to get the same vibe. Because I mean, who doesn't want to get that vibe? You know what I mean? Even if like you're just remaking or it's not yours or whatever, right? Who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? Like, dude, it's about you. You know what I mean? So you know, I'm trying my best to replicate the vibe here, but I'm sure you guys could do much better. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyways, so that's that. That's EQing. The next thing we have on here is some reverb, right? And I'm not sure if they'll use reverb. Um, I personally am of the belief that I think everything that go that sh- goes through Ableton or your DAW or whatever it may be, right? FL, Pro Tools, Logic, that free one that's really awesome. I forgot what it's called. Um, should have some reverb, just a little bit of reverb, right? And if we play without reverb here. Then I put reverb on. You probably can't hear it. I can't even really hear it, right? But the more important thing is that it fills out a little bit of the space that's being left by nature of just having clean MP3s, if that makes any sense. Like when you download or when you load up a sample into a DAW, right? That's just like a clean aspect of it because you're using like audio file, right? You're not like sampling a record or whatever, and you're probably using a computer. But adding some reverb it creates a little bit of echo, just takes away a little bit of that space, and it helps fills it out. That's why I think what I mean. I think every track should have reverb. So yeah, that's why I have reverb on mine. And lastly, here we have just two oh shit. I have, I have two auto filters, and what that means is I filter out a little bit of the high end here, which means that some of the high end can't get in, and here I filter out just a little bit of the low end, uh, which means that can't get in there. So I'm just gonna play it once again here, and then with these auto filters. Now, in this track, it doesn't do much, so I'm gonna just kind of show you some extremes. So, all filters, what the beauty of all filters is that you can filter out what you want, and I mean, sometimes you don't want any high end at all. Maybe it's like a verse section, you just want that bassy low end. And sometimes you don't want any low end at all. Maybe you're sampling like a lyric from a song, and you don't want any of their bass or their kicks to get in the way of your song, right? So here's here would be this song without any high end at all. If I have this high end filter just absolutely maxed out. It's good. It's also awesome for intros. Like if you want to do some cool, like somebody like you know what I mean, like your beat slowly building up so the intro. But so that's that. Obviously I can also show it without any low end at all. I don't think it's ever a good thing to do this. So don't try this at home. You'll go hit somebody's ears. You keep doing shit like that. Excuse me. Sorry, I just got my like booster shots. I'm a bit off today. But so that's that. So those are all the effects I use personally. Obviously, there's a lot more effects even for me that I could be using. Like you know what I mean, pitch modulation and all of that good stuff. But more importantly, it's just you know what I mean. I'm just trying to help you out, trying to get you comfortable at least like or at least in the know of what's going on here. So I put all these effects, the same effects on both channels, and then I just remade the beat based on this audio waveform up top and like the sections he has in his songs, right? Which makes the most sense when you're trying to do a remake. If you're doing like a tribute or like something similar, there's no need to be this exact, right? Like don't trip yourself, right? Like there's no need to be exact. So obviously like here, but like here for example, this part is like a you know what I mean it's like a pink part. So I put a pink part there, and then I zoomed in and I tried to you know what I mean get my snare to I you know what I mean I moved my shit around so that it would land in the same spot. So, um, that being said, right? So I end up with like these sections just so you can see. I'm just gonna play this. Right, and my part sounds a bit like this. You might have noticed that the light blue part, should I call it light blue? I'm called light blue. Um, sorry, the light blue part and the light green part sound different than the one in there, and that's because he had some way like he it seemed like he pitched his down even more. Like somehow he had these different vocals because um you listen to his right? Like that doesn't. If you pitch down this green part, which is what I really believe is what he took, it doesn't sound anything like that. Like, even if I pitch it down like a lot. So let's see here. Like, I'm just gonna extend this. Right? Like if you pitch this down, so I'm gonna pitch it down like I don't know just three. It still doesn't sound like that. I tried doing a lot of different pitches, and I just couldn't get it to sound the way his worked. More importantly, this is best shown in this yellow part over here. So this is what his sounds like.
I give to you.
Here's what mine sounds like.
I give to you.
So in the original song, "To You with Love," there's never really a part where somebody holds like the give syllable at all. Like they're always like "I give to you," right? There's not really like a "I give," right? As his does. So he somehow like stretched that shit. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure how he did that and how he had it, how he could maintain the melody behind it. Maybe it's like dubbed vocals on top. Maybe it's like some sort of modulation effect that I don't know about. Like that exists on the SP that he used. But the point is that even though I don't have access to all of that knowledge or tools, I still you know what I mean. I still tried to make use of what I could, and it seemed like this part after the snare is still the same part. So I'm just gonna play both parts together now. So both his beat and mine. See, like it still sounds relatively good. It's just that this whole "I give to you" part somehow um not somehow he somehow manipulated or dubbed his voice on top or something, man. Like I don't know how he did it, but anyways.
I give to
You know what I mean, what he did, then by all means, please tell me in the comments. You know what I mean, I'm not flaming, but I'm not gonna stop you. I'm all for hip hop. I'm all for Dilla. So that's that. Anyways, now that's out the way. The last part we have to talk about is the lyrics, right? So the lyrics he samples from this Gene Chatler track. So I'm just gonna kind of, what can I paste this here? What's up? See, you can see me. Sorry, that's a Slum Village. What's up? Um, so this is what it sounds like without anything else. I'm just gonna turn it down a little bit.
That time at the Regal, young man went out and made a name for himself. Has been on every record-breaking show in the Regal Theater in the last 2 years.
And that's pitch down one. This is what it normally sounds like. And I don't know if that is of any importance to you guys, but hey.
Been on every record-breaking show in the Regal Theater in the last 2 years. Ladies and gentlemen, the star of our show, how about a nice warm round of applause to welcome Mr.
I'm pretty sure he actually used, like, he didn't pitch it down at all. But I could be wrong. I pitched mine down anyways, just because it seemed a little bit easier to listen to. But he might not pitch it down at all. I just want to put that ahead of time. Anyways, so this is the actual song. You know what I mean? A live recording of a song, and so he just sampled the spoken part behind it, where like there's a little introduction. And I want to talk about scratching a little bit here. Obviously, in the actual song, he scratches it, right? Like this ain't no doubt.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, time at the Regal. Young man went out and made a name for himself.
Then later here, he like reverses it, so that'd be around here, I think. I don't have access to this record, nor do I have an actual record player that I could really scratch on. My record player is a little bit cheap, to say the least. But more importantly, so why, like, how did I go about doing this then? Even though I don't have a record player, right? Like, how did I quotation marks scratch it? Well, if you think of it as chops, like just chops that end early, you'll still get the same effect. So listen to this alone, right here.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Now look at the audio waveform, right? It's just the same part here, pasted 3 times. I just cut it off earlier each time, right? And you'll find that if you also do it on tempo, so if you have like a certain part, like I don't know, let's see what was this part.
ladies and gentlemen,
Well, if I chopped it up every half of a like a beat or something, right? So I don't know. Let's just do something like this. I'm sorry, every other beat or every beat. So it sounds like this.
ladies, ladies.
It doesn't sound that bad, you know, and that's how I go about putting scratches into my remakes or into my beats if I would do some by any means.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies.
Right, and that sounds a little bad, but if you just tune the endings a little bit, right, have one part go out, stretch out further than the other, have one part cut off early, you could get a really good scratch effect. So I just kind of listened to the original and just tried to see like, okay, like this part plays for this long, blah blah blah. So like here, check out this 4 right here, right, versus mine, which sounds like this. Sorry, this should be up a little bit more. Right, it's still the same idea. It doesn't sound as clean because it's not an actual record sound, but you know what I mean? That, you know what I mean? Chicka chicka Slim Shady, you know what I mean? Get down, right? Um, here the reverse, I just reversed the actual lyric, which sounds a little bit goofy. Check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, stop. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen.
But yeah, so that's that. Um, now we've covered pretty much the entire thing. So I just want to say, you know what I mean? Like, that's what went into my remake. This took probably a couple of hours. I've remade this a couple of times already, like just trying to perfect it, so to speak. So it took me a little bit less than 2 hours. But for, you know what I mean, no matter what, most important thing is that you put your heart into it. Um, you know what I mean, like especially if somebody's still watching this and they're still like a newer person to remake, so if they're like trying to actually learn something from my dumbass. Um, you know what I mean, I used to be in the same spot, so I definitely understand what it's like to like kind of mess up somebody's drums and be like, ah, shit, I just ruined this track. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I try to remake like a premiere track and I just ruined the drums, and it's like, oh fuck, you know what I mean? But you'll get there for sure. You know what I mean? I'm not by any means a musician. I'm just a hip hop head, right? Yeah. So one thing I do want to say, real quick, I feel like I forgot. Um, this will probably be a long recording, but obviously all this stuff is off grid. But if you just wanted to, you could just literally copy and paste it grid wise. It's not gonna sound as bouncy, but it still is gonna sound pretty good because our BPM is not at a strict 00 number. So if it was at like 81.00 or 80.00, just doing what I'm about to do here would not sound as good. So just doing this, yeah, and just doing this would not probably sound as good as it probably actually does. So let's see what this sounds like. I'm just gonna double paste here. So you notice here I pasted the same sound like literally on the grid, which makes it a little bit, you know what I mean? That's not human. You know what I mean? Like that's gonna be robotic. When you're playing chops, think of it like an NPC, right? Like 4x4, like 16 pads. There's no way you can play each chop exactly on time, the exact same way, more than twice, right? Like, but here's what it sounds like. So it doesn't sound that bad, but if you listen to a song like if you listen to this over and over again for like 2 minutes, you could be like, damn, this ain't kind of bouncy, you know what I mean? But Dilla, you know what I mean? Like he's played chops on the SP, and he definitely doesn't have that perfection, right? We all know the story of quantization and Dilla and all that, right? So you can see here, like this chop is played a little bit earlier, right? See, here's the 4 bar, right? It's played a little bit earlier. This one's also played a bit earlier. This one's also played a bit earlier. So forth and so forth. This one's played a little bit later. Look, check that out. See, that's the 3 bar. So yeah, I'm just gonna play this part just so once again we can kind of see the difference.
Ladies and gentlemen, not time at the Regal. Young man went out and made a name for himself. Been on every record-breaking show in the Regal Theater in the last 2 years. Ladies and gentlemen, stop.
Right, so if you heard that, right, this kick comes in fucking early, bro. Listen to this shit.
In the last 2 years. Ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, I guess I'll go play this one before so you can get a bit. Listen to this kick right here. This one right here.
Show in the Regal Theater in the last 2 years. Ladies and gentlemen.
Right, it comes in a little bit earlier, but it's the beauty of, you know what I mean? It's that imperfect beauty sort of idea, imperfect perfection. Um, Oh, if you're wondering, some people, you know what I mean? There's a good chance that when he played this, he actually didn't have his chops the way I do, which is a kick and a snare on one, right? So what it means that disconnected, right? So like that was my idea, but there's a very good chance that what he did would just have a kick and a snare separately on 2 separate pads, so it wouldn't look like this. It would look like, you know what I mean? It would look a little bit even more chopped up. So I'm just gonna chop it up here like this, like that. And this is a little bit shown when you see these parts right here that exist alone, right? Like that's this is why I think that he did it. Two per pad. I'm gonna say two beats per pad because like you listen to this part. This part is of the bigger light blue that you see here on the left, right? This part is of the bigger light blue you see on the left, but he somehow was able to play it alone, and to assume that he had 2 separate pads that he did that on, like I thought that would be a little bit whack. But then you listen to some part like this, right? This is the pink part of the bigger pink over here. That's just the snare, right? So that must mean that he had just a pad that was just a snare, right? Um, and so when I did this, right, I did these like 2 beats. Oh, I hope they're beats. I hope they're not bars. I hope I'm not messing this up. um, like I had these chops look like this, but obviously your chops might, and especially you're remaking a different song, right? He loved to do that. You know what I mean? The It's Your World. Don't Cry, right? All these legendary joints, he had a bit more chopped up. But here, I didn't do this. I just had it as twofer. Just want to mention that real quick. But yeah, so that's my remake. That's just some of my thoughts and what I was, I mean, how I got there and how I remade mine. I'm sorry, it's not very formal. I'm sorry, it's not very, what I mean, serious. I guess I'm over here like sounding like this of all things. But yeah, I mean, hey, Dilla, bro. I mean, one of the greatest of all time, bro. I mean, yeah. Hopefully, I get a little bit more remakes out. I have like a bunch of them just sitting around. I'll probably put one in my intro here, just because I'll have like an intro for this channel, so I kind of need one. Kind of need something in the intro, right? Yeah. Whoever you are, you know what I mean. You're probably important to somebody. You know what I mean. Stay safe. Don't die. You know what I mean. I'm not gonna say you're all loved because there's some evil people out there, but for the most part, chances are you're watching this, you're an amazing fucking person. So take it easy. Peace.